Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said it's time to take a political risk and consider changes to Social Security and Medicare benefits for young people. Changes to the programs are necessary, or they could run out of money for everyone in about a decade as the country faces a rising national debt, the presidential candidate said. The most disgusting part of Joe Biden's State of the Union address this year was when he stood up and he said, we'll all agree, right? We're not going to do anything to Social Security. And both sides got up and cheered, Christie said at conservative radio host Eric Erickson's conference in Atlanta on Saturday. They're a group of liars and cowards because they know that in 10 years Medicare will be bankrupt and in 11 years Social Security will be bankrupt. The fund behind Social Security is on track to become insolvent in about a decade, according to federal analysis. If it happens, it can only pay out the amount of money it receives, meaning the average benefit will reduce significantly. A study from the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget this week found that benefits for the average retired couple would drop by over $17,000 per year if the fund becomes insolvent in 2033, as projected. Christie proposed raising the benefit eligibility age for Americans currently under 50 years old. Only impacting younger people gives them time to plan for the change, he said. We can make real savings over the long term by playing with eligibility age, he said. He called eligibility changes a necessary conversation that has scared Republicans in the past and is a non-starter for Democrats. We have got to have this conversation, and other than me, nobody in this race will talk about it. It's ridiculous, Christie said. The former governor also proposed means testing for benefits, meaning that only people under a certain income threshold would be eligible to receive them. He didn't specify whether that eligibility threshold would be in his plan. I'm sure he's collecting it, but Warren Buffett doesn't need Social Security, he said. Entitlement cuts were part of a larger federal budget debate in March. While some conservatives floated ideas to change the programs, Republicans eventually agreed not to touch Social Security or Medicare in budget negotiations. Social Security and other entitlements make up nearly half of the federal budget. Christie is currently polling in fifth among candidates, according to national polls, about 3% support. He will attend the first GOP debate in Wisconsin next week. Well, it's always interesting to watch candidates destroy their own candidacies. Now, I've given Christie credit for being the only Republican who is not trying to bootlick for Trump. That is something I really do appreciate. I do like that he says the things he says about Trump, because a lot of the other candidates, in spite of the fact they're running against him, are just too scared to say anything. But make no mistake about this. The one thing that Trump has, and as always, he doesn't have it as much anymore, but the one thing that he has consistently had is a semblance of an idea of how to speak like a populist. This is why during this campaign and during the 2016 one, and I should say, I think during the 2020 one, although I don't remember him talking about this issue specifically, he has said, or rather had stated, he was against cuts or messing with at all Social Security and Medicare. He knows that those are very popular programs, and he knew that it would be very popular with the electorate to pledge that he would not mess them up. Now, of course, it's worth noting that when he was president, he proposed budget cuts that included cuts to them, which shows he's actually full of crap. But regardless of that, the fact is the winning Republican candidate, at least the most recent one that won the White House, did not support, nor does he now support, cutting Social Security and Medicare. And I think that is important when you consider that a lot of the Republican voter base is older people. And people who are kind of inching towards being older, late 40s, early 50s, people that are going to be in this program, or at least close to being in it, within the next 10 or 20 years. And when they hear that you want to raise the retirement age or you want to cut it, they're not interested in that. Because a lot of these people, as we've explained before, with the 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, are basically holding out hope until they get to that retirement age to then relax a little bit. So to yank that from them, or not even give the illusion of trying to preserve it, which is what Trump does very well, admittedly, will upset some people. And I think Christie, if he were, I don't know, it's like, I think his mindset is he's trying to distinguish himself from the rest of the pack. But this is one issue where the Republican voters, and the Republican candidates are all on board when it comes to don't mess with this. And I think it's going to backfire on him. I think if he loses his second place in New Hampshire, these comments will be part of that, depending on if Trump throws them back in his face or not. Man, I tell you, it's funny to think about all the money the U.S. spends on these foreign conflicts, right? What, 700 billion here, 800 billion there, and they're going to tell you that they don't have enough money for Social Security and Medicare. You're going to tell me that if we ended our engagements in all these foreign countries and refunded that money back home, we wouldn't have any funds for these programs? I'm supposed to believe that? I'll say that's the thing I hate about these, like, conservatives that do the, oh, this costs too much thing, how are you going to pay for it? Every time they give some kind of economic proposal, they never talk about cutting the military budget. It's like the most closed-lipped, tightest kept secret to just shh, be very, very quiet. 700 billion, 800 million, and it's not even like that's once every decade. They do that every year where it's just hundreds of billions of dollars for things that are not affecting or helping Americans at all. I mean, hell, if he wants to talk about cutting U.S. aid to Ukraine, I'd be the first one to give him a thumbs up and tell him, all right, let's go. But always wants to mess with a social program. Always. Every time. Also, I want to make a point of this because he mentions that Warren Buffett is collecting Social Security even though he doesn't need it. So the thing about public programs is that anyone can use them. I, for example, have a bathroom, house with a bathroom, but that doesn't stop me from having a right to use a public restroom. I mean, I'm sure that some people maybe it goes back to like the weirdness of these arguments. Whenever you have a public good that is for the American people, everyone benefits from it. Like they would say, "Oh, you want free college, so these trust fund kids can go to school for free for thousands of those." Like, no. This is not just for them. It's for people who have to sit here and have an anchor by their leg for the next 20 years to go get some piece of paper that doesn't guarantee them anything other than debt usually. So, it's interesting how to try and make you feel to try to like get you on board with the idea of making public programs less public. They have to invoke these people who I'm sure you could say don't need them or are fine without them, but that's not really the point of these programs. They're for everyone. It's like in the UK they don't say, hey, look at our single payer system. Oh, this person earns $200,000 a year. Oh, they could go get health insurance from their employers. Yeah, I guess they could, but the program is for everybody. Man, it'll be really interesting to see if during this debate if we have any Republicans that are going to talk about the economy, because I'm as bad as Christie's position on this issue is. The one thing I'll give him credit for, and this is the only thing I will give him credit for when it comes to this, is it's substantive. It raises some, budgetary concerns, and I have more respect for a comment as stupid as the one he made about Social Security and Medicare than a lot of the nonsense coming out of DeSantis and Ramaswamy and the rest of these people. Oh, we're trying to stop the counterculture and the woke mind virus in the military and defeating woke. And, I can certainly give Christie credit for at least posturing as someone that cares about something that, you could make the argument affects people. Because the rest of this field is really caught up on. I mean, even, like, that's one of the reasons why I said Trump's campaign is such a case of, like, a cult, because the 2016 version of him was talking about the forgotten man and woman and all these politicians being bought off, even though he himself is bought off. But anyways, now all I hear when he gives a speech is, oh, there's this investigation and Crooked Joe and all, just stuff that really is not substantive at all. And it really shows you that with a lot of the Republican voters, it is just a cult of personality where he was able to at least posture as someone that cared about issues in his 2016 campaign, and now it's just, well, he was the last president. We like him, so we can let him say whatever he wants, and we'll still vote for him regardless. But I do hope that Christie gets some kind of blowback for these comments. If it's not during the debates, then which I'd be shocked if this doesn't come up, because like if he's doing as good as he's doing in New Hampshire, DeSantis is a complete idiot if he doesn't try to say, I don't want to cut these programs. You do. And that makes you bad for older voters and people that are 50 and up who are 50 and younger who are trying to get on these programs. See, if he were smart, he would bring this up, but I don't think him or any of the other ones are going to mention it, which is very unfortunate because it means that Christie will continue to think that this is a good position to take, and it's not.